Well, I haven't got much more to say now. I think she said it all. Get this up here. As you can see, I'm a little on the taller side. I'm 5 feet 20 inches tall, in case you're wondering. That's about 2 meters. I'm just a local boy here. Next year, it could be any one of you standing here. So I think Sharon was the one that roped me into this. I'm an engineer. I'm not a preacher. My brother is a preacher. He's downtown Toronto and Knox Presbyterian there. He knows how to talk. So I've got notes here, so bear with me. Thanks for having me here today. Thanks, Carol, for that powerful prayer. I've got a few things to say today, a few stories. I'm going to start off with a little audience participation, though. It doesn't hurt, it's not embarrassing. I need you to work with me here. So, finger, I need your finger up, and I need you to touch your chin. About half of you about half of you did touch your cheek. And the point of that is that we're more compelled to follow actions than words. Words are important, but more often than not, we're going to look at a person's actions, what they do, how they conduct themselves, and more so than their words. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Could I have the PowerPoint on? I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm an experienced hiker, I guess you could say. I've hiked in BC and in the Yukon, Northwest Territories. Just over a year ago, my wife Colleen and I were hiking in Waterton Lakes National Park. It's a beautiful park in the south end of Alberta. It's in the Rockies. It's a wilderness. And it was a beautiful day, nice and warm, sunny. We were wearing shorts, t-shirt, running shoes. I think we had a pair of hiking poles with us and a camera. And we were about 5 kilometers down the trail. It's a 15-kilometer trail. We were hiking down into Montana, into Glacier National Park. And Colleen's in front of me, and we're coming over. There's a kind of a hill. And all of a sudden, she says to me, "Uh-oh, we've got trouble." And there is, on the trail, a mountain lion. That guy. Well, we didn't take that picture, but we were reacting at that point. He's about 100 feet away, so kind of like the far Christmas tree there to me, or that one to me. And Colleen is in front of me, and she immediately says, "Okay," and she runs behind me. Mountain lion reacts instinctively, takes up the chase. So now this mountain lion's coming, bounding up the trail, looking at me. And he's got steely-eyed. It's not like in the movies where you see them wow going like that. That's Hollywood. This guy was just steely-eyed, and he was going for me. So I had a couple of choices at that point in time. I am bigger than Colleen. I run faster than her. I could have run a lot faster than her. And you know the old axiom, you're only as good as, you got to run faster than the slowest person. Or the other choice was to take this mountain lion on. And thankfully, I chose that one. I didn't choose. It was sort of instinct at the time. So I just started instinctively yelling and shouting and waving my arms as high as I could, and one hiking pole in my hand. Colleen had the other one. She's banging it on the ground, and I'm yelling at the top of my lungs, trying to make myself as big as possible and as loud as possible, bigger than I am. This thing kept on coming, and it was right in front of me, almost like these gentlemen here, and I was now going to swing like this, hit him across the snout, which I knew wouldn't do anything. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to tackle this thing. And at the last moment, he did a 90-degree turn and bounded into the woods past us. And he sat there looking at us, and we just kept on booking it down the trail and still yelling and shouting, because I was worried that he was going to stalk us. And I just started praying. And you know how God commanded Adam to take authority over the creation, name the animals, and be stewards of the earth? Well, I did that at that point in time. I took authority in the name of Jesus over this animal, and I told him, "You're not going to follow us anymore. Get out of here and keep on going down the trail." So that was a scary moment. A couple of minutes later, we came across another hiker, and it was a remote trail, but we came across another guy. He was yelling too. He was all decked out in mountain gear, and he had bells and whistles and an air horn, and he had bear spray, and he had a 22 caliber bear banger, which is like a 22 caliber charge. And he had let it all off, and he had scared the lion off as well. But here we felt kind of naked, shorts, T-shirts, running shoes, unprepared for an experienced hiker, But, the world is full of unexpected turns, and that was certainly an unexpected turn. I'm in the construction industry. It's full of unexpected things. Lots of different conflicts happen, and how am I going to react at those times? At times not too well, at times well, but it's a rough and tumble world. Like we heard recently in the news, the Charbonneau Commission talked about construction in Quebec, full of bribery and cheating and payoffs and violence. I haven't seen too much of that in Ontario or elsewhere in Canada, but certainly it may be out there. I just haven't seen it. As a Christ follower, how do I conduct myself in the workplace? I was born into a Christ-following family. I've been a Christian all my life. And, it's easy to be a Christian on Sunday, but how do you conduct yourself as a Christian throughout the week? We have challenges. Am I touching my chin or my cheek throughout the week? The company that I work for is called Mike Reinders. My dad, my brother, myself, senior management, we're Christians, and many of our staff are as well. But we have 400 people, so many of them are not as well. We strive for Christian values. We try to operate that way, but it also puts us under greater scrutiny. My dad started the company in 1967. It was a wonderful year for Canada, so we named the company Maple Engineering and Construction. He picked a nice Canadian name, Maple. It was Canada's centennial, and the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup that year. It was the beginning of a destiny. For the Leafs, it's starting this year, but and maybe for us it was the start. After about 15 years, my dad also started an engineering company called Reinders Consulting. So we had two companies, one construction and one consulting. And about 15 years ago, we combined the names. We made it Maple Reinders. And I think I have a slide for that. There it goes. That's the logo we have today. We have the orange and blue. My dad is a Dutch immigrant, so there's the orange and blue is reminiscent of the Dutch flag. The orange being the royal color. You've seen it on the Olympics. The teams are always dressed in orange. But also, in the middle of it is a little cross. And I'll just take, I think in this slide here, you can see the yellow in the middle there. It's just a little cross, whereas normally you'd hardly know it. But I know it's there. To me, it's Christ in the center. And it's just a subtle little thing. It's not in your face, but a lot of our employees know it's there as well. People are watching. People are listening to how we conduct ourselves in the business. At Maple, we also have a kind of a motto that says integrity in building excellence. You see it there. And sometimes we struggle with that. Yes, we have integrity. We operate with integrity. But there's lots of other companies that also use that, also say they operate with integrity. Lots of construction companies say their work is with integrity. So, do we, don't we? I think that we should have it up there to hold ourselves accountable. We should be held accountable to it. Although Enron, they had the value of integrity as well. They had it carved in stone in their lobby of their building. And we all know what happened to Enron. They defrauded a lot of people. Having that kind of hypocritical thing out there is something we're conscious of as well. The same for values. We try to operate by a lot of values, and you can't read them on the screen there, it doesn't matter, but it's a value statement that we have hanging around the office on plaques and in trailers on sites. It includes words like candor, openness, trust, integrity, taking care of our employees, safe workplace, socially responsible, tithing our earnings, growing, training, learning. And the bottom line is to make a profit. As a company, we have to make a profit. If we do all those above things, then we should make a profit in the end. We have to do all of those well. And that's our responsibility. But I challenge employees also to hold us to these values. And at times we have discussions about things, and an employee pipes up and he says, that doesn't quite follow with what we have on the wall there. Oh, you're right, that's good. I had an incident this year where we loan employees across the company, and we had an employee that we loaned from Ontario over to Edmonton, Alberta, and he worked on a project there, and he was really good. The guys there really wanted to have him stay there. And we had an agreement that we wouldn't poach employees from each other. We wouldn't try to coerce an employee to go. And the guys really wanted to keep him, and so I gave him permission to go talk to him and try to coerce him. And he then, the word got back to our Mississauga office. They found out, they were ticked. And the manager, who this guy reported to, he took his value statement that was hanging on his wall and he turned it around. He turned it around. He said, wow, this is how you guys are going to treat your values? Or, you know, how the president is going to consider that. So the word got back to me. I thought, oops, made a mistake. I had to go apologize to him. I had to say, I made a mistake. That's wrong of me, and reverse the decision. But you know, trust takes a while to build up, and when you break it, boy, it crumbles just like that. It takes a bit of work to get it back. So, you know, we have to be conscious of those things. Just checking my notes here. Many of our competitors know that we're Christians. Some even call us Bible thumpers. I don't think we're out there preaching and thumping our Bibles, but at least to me, they know that we're Christians, that somehow through our conduct, through our words, you know, Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel wherever you can, and if necessary, use words. So, you know, hopefully that's the case. We've had opportunities to make a lot of money, to lie about things. We've resisted. We had one developer that was furious with us for not trumping up the cost on a project, basically doubling the cost. It would have brought him a lot of profit. It could have brought us a lot of profit, and we refused. We said we're not going to do it. He did not understand why we would not take that opportunity. So I guess in some ways, you know, we've been hurt. We haven't taken on some of the possibilities that we could have in the past, but it's nothing compared to the persecuted church. You know, Sharon mentioned that we toured Turkey. We went through a lot of churches to a lot of church locations in Turkey: Ephesus, Sardis, Pergamum, Laodicea, Antioch, Cappadocia, all kinds of them, and that's just half of them. Everywhere we saw, you know, what the Roman Empire had built, what the Greek Empire had built, and beside that, the remnants of a church. Next to temples, to Apollo or Zeus, a church. There was a church. The Christians founded churches there. In the marketplace, they carved crosses. I think I have a picture of it here. There. You know, this is in Sardis. That's right along the marketplace. In a storefront, some Christian there had carved his cross, made his mark, and was not afraid to let people know that he was Christian. They suffered because of it. They probably lost business. They were killed. They were tortured. We saw lots of other signs of it around Turkey. And even today, it's happening in places like Syria and elsewhere. You know, in Timothy, Paul says, everyone who wants to live a godly life will be persecuted. So if you want to live a godly life, you've got to be persecuted. And I think to myself, oof, I'm not really persecuted. Does that mean I'm not living a godly life then? Maybe some of you have the same, I don't know. But Paul also writes in Corinthians, he said, if one part of the body suffers, then the whole body suffers. You know, if you have a sore finger, a sore toe, you feel it. And it was just a reminder to me in Turkey there that we have to remember those persecuted. We have to let them know that we're thinking of them, that we're praying about them, that they're not on their own. We have to feel that pain in our finger, in our toe. They're part of our body. And all too often we live such nice lives here and think we're being persecuted because we didn't make an extra buck or something. You know, our business is complicated, torn between making money, living out our faith. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes not. We're not apologetic about our beliefs, but I don't think we're offensive about it either. You know, we do things like we'll pray at a barbecue or something. My dad will lead our board meetings and shareholders meetings with with a prayer and a scripture. We send Christmas cards with a verse in it, and it says Christmas in it, not Happy Holidays. It says Merry Christmas, Blessed Christmas. I send a birthday card to every employee in the company. I started that about 25 years ago, and I get my secretary to go to the Christian bookstore. She's not a Christian, so she is forced to go to the Christian bookstore. And she gets a stack of Christmas cards, not Christmas cards, birthday cards, and it has a message in it, a Christian message, and a verse in it, and then I write a personal message in it. So years ago, when we had about 50 employees, no big deal, one card a week. Now we've got 450 employees, and it's a bit more of a chore. This morning when I get to work, I'm going to have a stack of cards on my desk like this that I have to go through. So sometimes I wonder, is this all worth it or not? But then every once in a while, I get a message back, and people tell me that it really meant something to them, it really helped them. And then I think, okay, for those few people, it really is worth it. We have some Muslims, we have other folks too, and they get a card, they can deal with it. They know what I stand for. Culture is important in our company. I had to speak about our company culture a while back, and they asked me to speak about our culture. So instead of me just presenting what I thought our culture was, I thought I should lobby the employees and have them tell me what they think our culture is. And I got a lot of responses. And the number one value that they came back with is that we work by Christian values. Now, we don't state that we work by Christian values. We don't state it anywhere, Christian values. But that's what they came back with, non-Christians and Christians alike. So I thought, okay, it's a good encouragement to me that they're seeing what we do, how we operate. I mentioned, there's another part to this too, balance. Another one of the values to us is balance. When I was, in 1967, I was 11 years old, and that's when my dad started the company, and he spent a lot of time. We rarely ate dinner with him. He was coming in late, he worked hard. As well, he was an elder in the church. He was the chair of the local Christian high school that was starting up in Toronto, and he was on different committees and whatnot. But he still took the time to take our family to European trips, rented a cottage for a week or two in the summer, and Sundays would take us somewhere. Even though we didn't have the money for these things, it was a stressful time. He made the effort. And, at one point in time as a teenager, I yelled at my dad, and I said, "I'm never going to be like you." Guess what? I probably became like him in many ways, He's still his own person, I'm my own person too, but, a lot of similarities. One of the things, when I was in grade school, the principal noticed that I was misbehaving. And it was a wise principal. He called my dad up and he said, "Fred, your son's misbehaving. I think maybe you're not spending any time with him. Maybe you're not spending enough time committed to him." And I remember distinctly, he started taking me out of school, and let's go hunting, or let's go to a job site. It was kind of weird, I was kind of weirded out by it, because I wasn't used to this attention. But anyway, I know what he was after, and it was good of him. It stuck with me, and we've never missed any of our kids' games. I know where every arena is in Oakville here. There's a soccer field, and I've been at these arenas ungodly hours in the morning. And most of you here know those times as well, 5:30 practices, etc. I've also, as our kids have grown older, my son Joel played in the NFL and the CFL, and we never missed a game there either. By the way, Halton Police Force, he's looking for a job. So. He just retired this year. This was the first Grey Cup that there in 4 years that there wasn't a Reinders on the roster. So, the balance. Got another slide here. I show this slide to employees, and this is something that I try to go with in life, in family, with family and with work too. And we say, okay, here's the wheel of life, and there's a lot of spokes on this. There's the family, there's work, there's leisure, society, social, I should say, body, that's exercise, and spiritual. And I say to employees, keep your life in balance. If it's all work and you're missing some element here, family or even leisure, we have to encourage some employees, take vacation. It's important that you take that time, but including the spiritual side, take time for that as well. I've been off balance myself. Colleen and I, we got married in Vancouver. We came here. Colleen's always been involved in music ministry. When I first met her, she was in a church group singing in our church, and she was raising her hands and closing her eyes, worshiping the Lord, and I thought, wow, that's a beautiful girl. But she's a little over the top for me. Nonetheless, we still met and fell in love, and she's been a spiritual support for me. She has challenged me spiritually and helped me grow spiritually, and as well as being a great support as a wife. Thank you, Colleen. And she was almost ready to sing this morning because our guest singer didn't arrive till the last minute, so she almost got nervous as well. Early in our marriage, we started getting kids, and Colleen was off singing. Colleen and Grace, they were off singing every weekend. They were getting invited everywhere. They were spinning off CDs, and so I ended up being Mr. Mom on the weekends. And that wasn't so bad because I was really busy at work, and it forced me to spend time with the kids. And the kids look back on it with in a good way. I fed them macaroni and wieners every weekend. They still enjoy that. I would take them on Saturdays to the office because I had to catch up on work, and I would buy a box of Timbits and some pop, and I'd put them in the boardroom. And I'd plug in a video of the Little Rascals. They still love the Little Rascals. We'd get it from the library on the way. And they'd be in the boardroom, and I would be in my office cleaning up and catching up on stuff. And they'd have a great time. And on Monday mornings, there'd be a meeting, and they'd open up the doors on the whiteboard, and there'd be all these scrawlings from the kids, Dad is awesome, So, we were, Carol mentioned living stones. We were busy living stones, and our kids assure us that we did leave some good ripples because of that. But, my parents, they left ripples, and they rippled through us, and we've left ripples, and they've rippled through us to our children and now our grandchildren. We're seeing the same thing. So, watching us touch our chins, not our cheeks. I graduated, I mentioned that I graduated, Sharon mentioned I graduated from Waterloo. I went out west. I didn't know a soul there, met Colleen. Then in 1981, my dad convinced me to come back to Ontario to work for the family company. It was a small company at the time, doing about $3 million worth of work. We had a handful of people, and it was challenging times. A big project for us in those days was just over $1 million. There was one time I was growing spiritually, and I was really praying. I was bidding on this project, putting an estimate together, and it was an important project for us to get. And the night before, where it says in Acts, your young men will have visions and your old men will dream dreams, I had a vision. I dreamt a number, 1.83 million. And that number was like, well, I don't know what that number is. So I went to work in the morning. I told my dad, I said, I dreamt this number, 1.83 million. He says, okay. So then, as the prices come in, the concrete price comes in, and the steel price, and the excavation, and the mechanical, the electrical, all these prices. And in construction, we add them all up. It comes in at the last minute, and you adjust them all, and you line it all up and add up the number. The number came out to 1.83 million. So I said to my dad, well, there's the number. Do you want any adjustments? No, keep it as, submit. So we submitted. We got the project, and it was a great project. And it was one of those moments that, wow, I'm praying, and God's listening, Now, there were a few other projects that I prayed for that we didn't get either, but but there are those moments. There's always little tests in our business too. Once we built a hotel, and halfway through the hotel project, we realized that the owner also owned a few strip clubs, and that likely the funds from those strip clubs were funding the hotel that we were building. And he started to invite some of our staff and some of our sub-trades to having little parties. They didn't go, but we thought, let's get this project done. And afterwards, he says, now we want to build a conference center, a banquet hall. And so we want you guys to do it. Well, we kind of thought, we quietly declined, and we thought, that's not the right fit for us. Let's carry on. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes not. We call ourselves an environmental company. I think we're done with the PowerPoint there. And so about half our business is in environmental work, and some of it is in the oil patch, Fort McMurray. And a lot of people complain that the oil business is destructing our planet. A lot of what's going on in Fort McMurray is really causing destruction. So we struggle with that. There's some good opportunities for us. We just completed a wastewater treatment plant last year, so that's good in Fort McMurray, but we're also building an office building for an oil company in Fort McMurray. So are we contributing then to the destruction of the earth to some extent? We wrestle with those things. We also build water treatment plants and organic waste processing. Just north of here, we're building the Mid-Halton sewage treatment plant. You might have seen our sign on the North Service Road between Third Line and Bronte Road. Not many people know it's a sewage treatment plant, but that's what it is. In fact, the effluent that comes out of that goes into Lake Ontario, and it is cleaner. That water is cleaner than the lake itself. The green bins here in Oakville, we put green bins on the curb and with organic waste. That is hauled to our plant in Hamilton, which we designed and built and operate. And there, the green waste is, in a matter of 4 weeks, becomes black, fertile topsoil. In Vancouver, we built one in Guelph, and we operate that. We're building one in Calgary right now, and we built other ones across Canada from coast to coast. We built one in Vancouver that takes organic waste and anaerobically digests it into gas. The gas is collected, the gas runs a generator, creates electricity, green power, and that goes back into the grid. And the topsoil, or the residual, is topsoil, and it is sold as topsoil. So, we like doing that kind of thing. We think that's part of our call to be stewards of this earth. The other half of our business is buildings. And we built a lot of them here in Oakville. We're expanding Kings right now. And we try to include green technologies and efficiencies in those as well. As a Christian-led company, we have opportunities as my role as chair of some of the boards in the construction industry, I've had the opportunity to give a blessing, to give a real blessing, not just a pat little prayer. I've had standing ovations for prayers, because in real English. You notice that the readings today that we had were in the Message. I specifically wanted them to read in the Message versus the King James. The Message it's a paraphrase, but it's that much easier to hear God's message, and that's why I wanted that read. So thanks, guys, for that. You did a great job. We do things like paying suppliers on time. We try not to shop our prices. We honor people's word. Try to do the project right. Sometimes we lose money on a project, but still get the job done right. But we're not the only ones. There's lots of other guys out there that do that as well. In fact, some of them do it better than us. But I think the difference for me is that I want to be able to showcase the love of God in my actions, in our actions. God is a worker. God worked 6 days, and then he rested. 6 days created the earth, created us, so he worked. And then he said to Adam, go before the fall, before he sinned, he said, go work the garden. Work the garden. So work was created as a good thing, a thing that's part of us. Now, after the fall, of course, the sweat of our brow, it becomes a little more difficult, but there are still lots of aspects of work. God gives us great gifts, and he loves to see when we use those gifts in our work. And when we use those gifts, that's when we're enjoying our work as well. We know when we love our work, when those gifts are being employed. Of course, this world is not a perfect place. Look what happened this past week or so in Paris a couple of weeks ago, and in Syria, what's going on. Terrible things are happening, and it continues to happen. The mission of Jesus was to bring peace and shalom into the chaos of this world. How can we be a vehicle of bringing some peace and shalom into the marketplace, into our neighborhood, our church, our golf club? our family. Many of us have family members that may be alcoholics or might be in serious trouble that need God desperately. Sometimes it means causing a ripple, but the ripple effect, Carol mentioned that in her prayer, can be far-reaching. One of the scriptures that was read from Peter, live an exemplary life among the people so that your actions will refute their prejudices. Then they will be won over to God's side. I think the key word is actions. Can't just be words. Touching your chin. We need to do stuff. Are we going to be afraid to say and live and display that we're Christians during the week? Are we afraid to put a little fish symbol on the back of our car? Because then we have to drive safely too. I have one in my car. So what's it going to be when we face a mountain lion, a conflict? Something happens, bang. Well, how are you going to react? Is the real you going to come out at that point? The rest of the story on the mountain lion, by the way, is that mountain lion continued down the trail and attacked a 17-year-old girl and injured her. And her family rescued her, and then the park rangers had to go out and shoot the animal. It was a 160-pound mountain lion, all muscle. And, my wife is 160 pounds, but this thing had bigger claws. Oh, she's probably less than 160 pounds. A lot less. The ripple effect of that. She's wagging her finger at me. But the longer ripple effect is that I may never be able to convince her to go on a wilderness hike again. So we'll see. The more daunting hike may be at work or in the neighborhood with your neighbors or with your family. Will we dare to act out God's love in the chaos, pointing at our chins? Joshua 1 has been a great inspiration, kind of a life verse to me. I found it when I was a kid. And it reads, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and be courageous. Do not be afraid, because I, the Lord, am with you wherever you go and whatever you're doing." And that helps me in my work, helps me on the golf course, helps me in every aspect of life. So thank you for having me this morning, and have a blessed Christmas season.